Tim Petrowich for Dateline Marion, and again, it's time for our weekly visit with Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. Coach, what a game Saturday. 23-22 win over Cahokia.
Yeah, just like we talked about how those Cahokia games are tough. We've had two in a row that have ended. We've taken the lead 2 years in a row with probably less than 10 seconds left in those two games. And yeah, it was a nail biter for sure. And, it wasn't easy. We struggled throughout much of the game. I think we ended up with just a handful of yards rushing for the day. And I have to be honest with you, kind of our screen game became our running game. And you take what they give you. And thank goodness that we were able to generate enough offense and have enough big plays and had a very good 2-minute drill at the end of the game to win it.
I looked at Cahokia's roster when I got it in the middle of the week, and I started seeing not only names that I'd seen and recognized from basketball season that were really good athletes, but a lot of players that were on last year's team, including their quarterback, Chris Bradley, who was a really good quarterback.
Yeah, and, that's the thing we looked at was how many returning players they had, and they lost some key guys, but let's face it, they had a very core group back with their quarterback and their tight end and a number of guys. And I remember him talking in the fall about, in a preview issue in the upcoming fall season we thought was still going to happen, that he didn't think they had a lot of depth, but what they had in the starting unit was very, very good. And I think that assessment was dead on. We tried tempo, but in order to tempo and play fast, you got to get first downs. And we didn't get very many first downs. So our goal was to try to wear them down because they had a lot of two-way players. And at times I think we did that, but we just didn't do it consistently enough. But maybe, Tim, there was just enough fatigue in that last drive that helped us out because they're a formidable opponent and they're well coached. And, as I said last week, it's not always about getting the win or the margin of victory. It's who you get the win against. And I always feel like when we beat Cahokia, it is such a great feeling because of how much respect we have for that football program.
That final touchdown, the game-winning touchdown, a lot of things happened. Of course, you refer to, and Walker Fox, who caught the touchdown, referred to scramble drill in a practice that you guys do on a regular basis. And probably something that came into play back in the Matt Brown era, but it kind of brought back memories of that on Saturday.
It did, and Matt had a knack for that as well, and created some big plays by his escapability and to throw the ball on the run and buy time, just like Hunter has a knack for that. And it's funny because scramble drill, there isn't really. We have some rules for it. We have, but every time the scramble happens, it can be right or left. It could start right, go back left, go back right. I mean, you don't know. And the route combination that you're running when it happens is never the same. So each scramble drill is very unique. And so there isn't a set way to do it, but we try to give them some guidelines. And I have to tell you that when Hunter did what he did, it really was a little bit against some of the rules. But again, he's in the back of the end zone looking for grass, looking for space. And he saw it. And I think they made eye contact. And then when Hunter saw him break, he dropped the ball in there right on target. And I think that's getting familiar with your teammates and having that kind of intangible chemistry that's so important.
Well, and, the two things that made that play, first of all, I think after the play lasted for so long because Hunter had 6 or 7 or 8 seconds to throw the ball, I think Cahokia's secondary maybe let up a little bit. Yeah. And, then Hunter threw the ball kind of across his body to the opposite side of the field to make that play happen too.
Yeah, good point. And I think secondary coaches, defensive coaches will tell you that coverages remain intact for about 3 to 4 seconds, about the average time a quarterback has to drop and get rid of the ball. Once that time expires and the quarterback moves, coverages tend to break down because there's a lot of improvisation going on, so zones get changed and man-to-man coverage becomes more difficult because now receivers are making all kinds of erratic moves. So a quarterback's ability to scramble can often break down a team's coverage base, whether it's cover 1, cover 3, or whatever coverage they're running. And they were pretty much a man coverage team, but that's a long time to cover a person, especially when that person is just looking for grass and players are kind of running into each other, and that's a long time to stay on somebody. If anyone can do it, Cahokia can. And they did it for a while because Hunter looked for a while. But finally, someone got into the clearing, and that was Walker.
We talked about Walker Fox being kind of next man up.
Yeah.
Made a couple of big catches on that drive, including the touchdown. You also talked about defensive plays that he made. And went back and looked at the play-by-play of the game. He's the one who made the 4th down tackle that gave you the ball for that possession.
Yeah, he just, through the course of the offseason, beginning in the summer, and even especially in the fall, something happened. Walker just really started to develop and started making plays in practice. And when Vince was at basketball and Walker took his place at the X receiver position while he was at basketball, Walker really came into his own. And I think that practice time to be the guy for a couple of weeks of practice, or at least several practices, certainly paid off. And I think he developed that confidence, and I think Hunter's developed confidence in him. And then now the secondary play is kind of another level of that role. I think he's got some confidence now that's carried over to the defensive side.
Let's talk about defense a little bit. And we look at the fact that Cahokia moved the ball up and down the field some, and they had some plays. But, realistically, it was the defense that kept you guys alive for as long as they did. You talked about the offense not really getting anything going in the first half, yet being tied 8-8 at halftime.
I thought that was big. We went at halftime, and obviously you want to lead, but we were sitting there 8-8 at halftime and really felt like we spent the entire game at the wrong end of the field. And to get out of it, to escape from that half at an 8-8 tie, we felt pretty good about. We knew they were wearing down. We felt like we had an opportunity in the second half to put some drives together and really wear them down. They just kept coming. I mean, they were just after us. They were extremely aggressive, and we really had to pick and choose our plays. And the first touchdown came on a big play, which didn't help our defense catch the breath. So, and then the second touchdown was a good drive, and we hit Lucas Strom on a screen pass. But we just had trouble putting drives together. And you go back and we looked at the film, of course, and things were close. Things were almost there. Maybe the back hit the hole a little off, or maybe a block was just missed, or maybe we just one guy missed an assignment. And football can be that way. It wasn't as bad as we thought. It just tended to be a minor breakdown in several places along each drive, and but that's part of playing against a good defense that's tough to block.
It for me is so much fun to watch a game from the sideline, and as I watch the game Saturday and I hear the coaches talking to the players about things that they could do just a little bit better, a certain thing they missed, something like that, and you see how good the defense has played over the first 2 games, to know that if they just make some slight adjustments, they can be that much better. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think that's when we talk to our kids, the thing you're trying to look for on film are there major issues, and the good news is there's not been major issues. There've just been things that you year by year, season by season, game by game, you got to fix to go to another level. We told the kids yesterday that the difference between good and great is not this vast, margin that you might think. It's actually a very narrow margin. The great teams just consistently do more of the right things, and they do them more aggressively, more physically. And the good teams maybe are knocking on that door, but the inconsistency catches up with them. They're unable to make the catch, make the throw, protect the quarterback. And so I don't feel like we're way away from that. I just feel like we're learning on the run. And I got to point out, the defense, 2 good weeks in a row against 2 good offenses. And I got some sophomores over there. Not to knock any of the older kids, but it's kind of shocking to watch some sophomore defensive linemen and some junior defensive linemen with no previous varsity time play as well as they have against good football teams. And just to give a name is Michael Gunn. Made some huge plays in that game. And here's a young man that's going to be dressing in blue and gold for 2 more years after this. Mm-hmm. And he's just one of a group of guys. We've got some young receivers, young running backs, and we feel like, if we can continue doing our job as coaches, we can continue to get them ready and get them some experience this spring. The future's good.
One of the things that we talk about year after year after year, I think it played out at the end of the game with Walker making the big catch, is the fact that you want to have a lot of guys touch the ball. Makes you a lot harder to guard. That was the case Saturday. I think 8 different receivers and 6 different backs that ran the ball.
Yeah, that's something we always talk about. I was looking at the film thinking, here's Cole Bundren. Because of the formation he plays in, we didn't do a lot of that formation, but he had a really nice stretch run, an outside run. He caught a screen pass in a key moment. So not that many touches, but some touches, and they were valuable touches. You mentioned Walker making some catches, Chase Isbell, big touchdown catch, Lucas Schramm, couple of screen pass catches. Mason Gooch and Jake Bruce continue to do good things. And let's talk about Tyler Seema, who caught a pass and took a shot.
Oh, yes.
And,
yes.
Talking to him yesterday, he knew he was going to get hit. He knew it was coming, and he makes a catch extended from the body and got hit and hung onto the ball and at another crucial moment. And so those kinds of things, guys contributing, but not just a couple of guys. We're not leaning on one guy. We're spreading the field, getting a lot of guys involved. And I think, I can't speak for him, but I think Hunter has developed confidence in a lot of people, not just Vincent.
Well,
and it shows.
You can tell that, because he's throwing the ball all around.
To everybody,
Let's talk about Vincent for just a moment.
Sure.
He got hurt in the game. Was it the same ankle that he's been favoring?
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of a reoccurring thing, but I don't think it's something that will keep him out. I'm just kind of afraid it's going to be a bit of a nagging thing this shortened season. We're hoping it never gets any worse. We're trying to do what we can in practice and getting therapy and getting rested some and letting Walker take some of those reps. But we're confident to be back on Friday.
And you could see how bad, again, he wanted to get back in that game Saturday,
too. We just want to be careful we don't do anything to extend that injury, make it worse, and keep him out for longer than he needs to be. But, that's part of the great thing about having some depth is that you don't have to have that impulse to press someone into service when they don't need to be, and we want to take care of him first, his health and well-being first, and then if the trainer says he's a green light, we'll get him back in there. But until the trainer gives us that, we're going to continue asking the next man to stand up.
And that's a fine line to walk, especially with an athlete as good as he is, because I've said this to people. He's a guy who we could be watching play on TV on Saturdays or maybe even Sundays at some point.
Yeah, and I don't know what the situation's going to be. He's got a chance, even with this shortened season, to be our leading receiver in school history. And we don't talk about that much because he's just a junior, but he could be that guy. Even with this shortened season, he could still get some records here. And he's a valuable player and just continues to get better.
Let's talk about Mount Vernon. And I guess the thing that jumps out to everybody in Southern Illinois is you've got Mount Vernon's old quarterback going against his old school now.
Yeah, and I think it's good that Hunter's already played basketball against him twice, and I think that kind of breaks that ice a little bit. And listen, Mount Vernon, I think, was 0-9 last year. They're 1-1 this year and had a big win last week. They've got some players, and I think I tell people this a lot. When you are in the South 7 or 5A football and above, even if a team's record isn't maybe as eye-catching as you might think, they're 2-7, 3-6, 1-8, whatever. Don't mistake that they don't have football players, because they do. I remember playing Centralia for years when they were down, really down. And we'd look at their athletes across the field and say, if the right guy gets in here, good things can happen. And then Ray Calling ends up taking the job and flip that around in a couple of years. I feel like Mount Vernon is continuing to put athletes on the field. Saw some young players on the film making a big impact. And they have arguably one of the top 2 or 3 football players in the South 7 playing for them, Evan Leake. He plays quarterback, running back, receiver, slot, DB, linebacker. He's a phenomenal football player. Put up big numbers last year for them. He's bigger now, stronger now. He's a weapon. So you see the game on Friday, you'll notice him pretty quickly. He's a guy we got to make sure we stop.
Yeah, and even though we've talked about the fact that Althoff is down a little bit, still to put up 55 points in a game when you're not expected to do a whole lot that they're doing some things right.
Well, and they were down 14-0, I think, in that game. So they were down 14-0 and come back and dominate the remainder of the game. And like you said, I know Althoff's dealing with some rebuilding and a young team, but 55 points is 55 points. I mean, I'm impressed. So to put the film in and take a look at what I see some really good athletes, some strong upperclassmen, and I'm sure there'll be some emotion involved in this game for them.
The last season we played anyway, the game up at Mount Vernon, clearly you wanted the game to be a game where you got out and took control early. When you did that, you could tell that Mount Vernon let down a little bit. Yeah. And is that a goal again this time, or is this a Mount Vernon team that's maybe not going to lay down like that?
I don't know. I don't know enough about them. I never anticipate any school ever doing that. If it happens, that's great. But I think, players right now are so appreciative and hungry to play, and I think motivated by the thought that they almost lost this. I don't see teams quitting or giving up because we thought the reality was that we were going to lose this. And I think they're motivated. They look motivated on film. I'm sure there's some energy at their practice this week because of their big win last week. And you add the fact that Hunter played there last year. I think those things are the kinds of incentives. But, obviously we go into the game as the favorite. But I think it's important that we get off to a good start. If you've watched the NCAA tournament, when you don't get off to a good start and you let the so-called underdog, hang around, things get dangerous. And I've coached long enough to know that it happens. Upsets aren't as rare as people think. I'm surprised people are so often shocked by Cinderella stories in the tournament or something, because we tell our kids all the time, the moment we let off the gas, the moment we stop playing at a high level, this football team will get average in a hurry. And I believe that. We just don't have enough pure athletic talent to ever go through the motions. We have to keep our foot on the gas pedal, practice well, prepare well, and stay humble if we want to continue to be successful.
COVID has made this a really interesting season. I mean, because of, I think, what you said, the fact that teams and players are more hungry to play because they didn't think they were going to have that opportunity. And we're seeing that through the conference. Mount Vernon rallied from being down. And then the other thing that surprised me was Centralia beating Carbondale at Carbondale last week. It is a situation where you just don't know what's going to happen from week to week.
No, you don't. And I tell you, we just saw that O'Fallon cancel the remainder of their spring season due to COVID. So we try to remind the players, we're sitting here with a game on Friday that may or may not get played because of our circumstances or Mount Vernon's. You don't know. So every week, every practice, every day together matters, So there's nothing guaranteed. And we know that, Tim, in life. We know nothing's guaranteed, but we kind of live our life like it is. I've never lost a season before or had numerous games canceled or had someone tell me you cannot practice or work with your kids for 3 months at a time or whatever.
Right.
So now we look at those things, as I look at those schedules and say, well, we're scheduled to play Mount Vernon Friday. We're supposed to have practice today at 3:30, but a phone call can come into this office and change my world. And as I said, life is like that anyway, but I think we just more cognizant of it than ever before. We're all a little on edge for that every day. And so I leave here every day. We thank the Lord for an opportunity to practice and to have a good day together, and then keep our fingers crossed that we're going to have a game on Friday.
Even with limited fans, how exciting was it to see the atmosphere and hear the crowd Saturday?
Well, Wildcat Stadium, even with partial fans, was a rocking place, man. Just, it's such a cool feeling, because I don't really notice the crowd until you give me a video clip of the last play, for example, and to hear the crowd roar when the catch was made, and to hear the student section, you can hear them off to the left of the video. And I don't know, it's just, I think our kids, this is just good medicine for us, for our kids and all of us, to have that atmosphere, to see the band and the dance and the cheerleaders, and to have all these elements in place, and there's just a sense of normal that we've missed. Yeah, it was pretty good, pretty special.
Another chance on Friday night. The Wildcats play at home against Mount Vernon.
Yep.
A big South 7 conference game. Even though there's not really a conference trophy, it's still, there's still bragging rights involved.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
That game's at 7 o'clock Friday night here at Wildcat Stadium. That's Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.